Mike Kehoe, M-I-K-E-K-E-H-O-E, and I'm running for Missouri Lieutenant Governor.
Okay, so tell me, what issue is most important to you as we head into November?
Well, I think everybody's struggling with where we are with the COVID, kind of the COVID effect it has on our citizens, plus our COVID economy. What effects have that had on Missouri businesses? So that wasn't probably, by the way, the #1 issue several months ago, but it's become the #1 issue. And I think how we deal with that, how Missouri comes out of the COVID crisis and our economy gets going again, people get back to work, I think that's probably the most important thing we can be concentrating on.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah, I'm not hearing much wind. It's not overpowering anything. I'm not even really hearing wind. I'm trying to figure out if I'm hearing the helicopter.
I think he's moving on now.
Yeah.
But he could be back.
Yeah, nothing so far has been unreasonable.
Okay. All right, so what are we doing wrong right now, and what will you do differently, if anything, if you're reelected?
Well, I think we have a lot of good things going. I'd rather concentrate on what I think the things that we're doing right. I mean, Missouri's economy mirrored the nation's economy, and then it was just robust before the COVID crisis hit. So bringing that economy back online, I think, is the most important thing. Again, putting Missourians back to work so they can provide for their family, I think, is probably the most important thing we can do. I think we have to stop concentrating on issues that don't help us move forward. And only concentrate on those that really get us going in the right direction. Sometimes we can get bogged down in things that aren't productive to us as a state and to our families. And so those are the things we need to make sure we're concentrating on real issues that help move us forward.
So is there anything you think that we're doing wrong right now?
Well, you know, I'm worried, and I don't want to criticize some of the schools that may not be bringing kids back in. I think kids got to get back in school right now. But again, that's a local control decision, so I don't want to criticize what local leaders are thinking is best for their area. But kids getting back in school is something that we're going to have to definitely figure out, both at all levels of education, both K through 12 and in collegiate, four-year schools. We got to get these kids back in a learning environment. We can't let them continue to fall behind and figure out a way to go forward with that.
What do you believe is top of mind for voters right now? Economy, race, or COVID-19? Which is the biggest concern?
Well, I would say that COVID-19 and economy kind of go hand in hand. It's something that the effects of COVID actually end up having an effect on the economy. You might be temporarily laid off, you might have gotten laid off permanently. That absolutely hurts our economy and Missouri families. So I think those two kind of go neck and neck. And certainly when it comes to just the confrontation we're seeing in some of our streets across the country, certainly a few times here in Missouri. People have some unrest when they see that. They want to see what it is that's bothering the folks who are protesting and what we can do to address it as a nation. And by the way, that doesn't mean the rioters. They're in a total separate camp by themselves. Even the protesters would tell you the rioters are stealing from their message. The folks who are protesting because they believe there are some injustices out there, if you sit down and speak to those folks like I have, they're very reasonable in what they're trying to figure out a way for both sides of that equation to be able to move forward.
So how would you address those? Economy, race, COVID-19?
Well, taking those separately, with the COVID-19, I think we continue to move forward under the conditions we have in front of us. Right now, that means masking, social distancing, basic sanitary things that our mother taught us when we were 4 and 5 years old, to wash your hands and to not cough on other people. Those are the basic things that we have to do. We have to use some common sense as we move forward with where we're at in COVID right now. But we're going to see different tools come to us, whether that's a vaccine or some sort of medical advancement in COVID. As that changes, and believe me, as we're watching right before our very eyes, they're making advances on where the next possible vaccine will come from for COVID. And as we find that, how do we get that distributed to our vulnerable populations, to our nursing homes, to our veterans homes? How do we implement those cures that we're going to have for COVID? Because I believe we will have something. So that will take on a whole new life as some of the new tools become available to us. Economy-wise, I don't think it's going to take much. Once we do find out something for our COVID, we learn how to live within our means of the COVID and then deal with whatever the cures that come out with it. it. I think our economy is just right there, ready to come back on board. We're certainly seeing signs of a recovery rate right now. We're seeing unemployment rate in Missouri and in the nation drop to lows that aren't quite as low as pre-COVID lows, but certainly going in the right direction. So our economy is there wanting to move forward. We just need to make sure that we allow that to happen. And as far as race relations are concerned, I think it's all about those relationships and those conversations that we have. We have to listen to each other, and then we have to find out what it is that we really think can make a difference to stop some of the issues that some folks feel are being unjust, and how you get both sides to understand where those issues lie. I was born and raised in North City, St. Louis, so I've been around urban areas an awful lot in my first half of my life, and I understand that some of those folks believe that we're not just paying enough attention to them. So how do we, as really not government, but how do we as citizens and human beings work together to move that forward?
How would you reassure voters that you'll fight for what they want?
You know, I came from a very poor and humble background. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, raised without a father. My mother just raised us to work and love the Lord. And I think that if you have that kind of background and became a small business person and you go into politics, you kind of understand where it is. So I'm not a career politician, and I'm thankful for that, because that's not really what I ever wanted to be. But I think when you have that kind of background, you have a little bit more of a better view of what situations are and how to handle them in the real world versus in the political world. And that's something I think I bring to the table that's unique and different, that I'll continue to deploy as we move forward.
Why run for office?
Well, you know, I started as a state senator just because I was aggravated with the way elected officials were spending my tax dollars, to be honest with you. And I thought that we needed somebody with a small business background to kind of get involved in that conversation. Once I got there, I realized there were a lot more issues and a lot more depth to some of those issues that wasn't just a quick fix. So I continued to run for the reason a lot of people run. I run for my family. I run for my friends. I run for the people who have encouraged me to continue to make a difference and have a common sense voice, to be able to show a little bit of leadership in state government and do it with the values that Missourians understand and that we're all a part of.